Fast and the Furious reminded us of our personal episodes when we tried a bit too much to be cool, to fit in, to belong. Because just like Paul Walker's character, Brian O'Connor, we have been the rookies, newbies, or busters at a new school, team, car meetup, or car club. So when we learned that Paul Walker was an enthusiast, a petrol head, just like us, it was like losing a member of the family. And family is what the Fast and Furious movies are about. Car and motorsports enthusiasts are cut from the same cloth. We love cars and motorcycles, but we also love people. Other enthusiasts who, like us, feel a sense of community and of family. We love getting our hands dirty, helping to fix a problem, and especially spending time with our petrolhead relatives at meets, shows, or races. And so did Paul, because he was one of us.
I actually prefer to go to events with my dad. We'll have the same interest in the similar cars, be able to talk about the same topics. He'll be able to share some thought and some wisdom, and I might be able to tell him some new age things and be able to share with the thoughts of resto mods and things like that. Just stuff that is two generations can collaborate over the same topic of interest. It's just something that you can enjoy.
I would call myself more of an artist than anything, doing photography, video, web design, graphics. As a kid, I did a lot of drawing, I did a lot of painting, I did a lot of graffiti, I did a lot of dancing. My father was really into cars. So, when he found out that I showed an interest in automotives, he was ecstatic. He was ecstatic. I would read his Motorhead magazines, muscle car magazines.
In high school, I got a sound system for my birthday from my mother, and she was talking about she would pay for a mechanic to put it in, and I'm just like, no. I literally stayed up all night on a school night. My senior year of high school, I stayed up all night learning how to install and then installing the sound system.
So I remember in school, you know, I got called a buster. For sure, true story. Because I tried so hard. I tried so hard for everybody to like me. I mean, I tried doing every sport in fall. You know, I tried everything, you know, whether it be class goof or whatever, you know. I dressed how I wanted to, and, you know, I'd work hard. I'd slide into people's chairs and just be like, hey, how you doing? And finally people actually started to get used to it, and I actually started getting pretty well known around the school and didn't realize until someone goes, hey, I know you, you're the goofball from school. And I was like, hey, somebody knows me.
And I was always the talker, and it was just difficult. And then when I moved down here, I finally had the chance to get the car I've always wanted, which was my Intimidator. And they said, now I can join a real car club. And that's exactly what I did, and I pretty much just let the car do the talking. Just a couple revs, a little rumble, and people are like, man, what do you got under there? Pop the hood, and they see a stock motor supercharger, and they're like, impressive. And it's, forgive the pun of the car, it is intimidating going into, you know, breaking ground in a new group or a new area or whatever. But once you're in, it's just a matter of just going with the flow.
It makes us all a family.
That's exactly what it is. Clubs, groups, they're family. You know, they say blood's thicker than water, but family doesn't always have to be blood.
When I first saw the first Fast and Furious movie, it wasn't in the theaters. So it was 2001, if I remember correctly. And it was just one of those. It was one of those movies that I thought was just a movie. I don't think my parents took me to see it, but it was a couple of years later that I actually saw it because I got it out on DVD, and it was one of those films that actually did finally make a hit home. Just the scene of cars collecting together, racing, having a good time, causing havoc is, well, I mean, any kid's dream, considering they don't understand the full value of what it is to be an adult with a car and a responsibility like that. It's just something they think about, and so it's just. They were having fun in the films, just shooting the race scenes, going to race wars, living in a house all together, modifying cars, running parts, making money, and just living a dream. Partying every night, working during the day, and just everything being about cars was just something that they were all about. When it came down to me, it was something that affected me definitely. I mean, I wasn't part of like the body kits and underglow and all the things like that that made those cars at the time be what they were. But it was definitely something about the perspective of what it was to modify a car and make something your own. It's kind of an artist perspective, if you will, just because we are creating cars in the development sense of what we are and an extension that is symbolized through the object of a car. It's just something special like that.
The first movie was always a real hit point for me, and while I have other favorites, I will always stop what I'm doing to watch the first Fast and the Furious movie, because it is the original, it is the classic, it is what sparked all of this. And I mean, it's what starts a lot of car people. I've talked to a lot of people in the Charlotte scene, in the Seattle scene, in the Miami scene, and Fast and the Furious 1 is usually the go-to for what sparked people's interest and love for cars.
The first Fast and Furious movie I saw wasn't actually Fast and the Furious. It was Too Fast, Too Furious, Ludacris. That was an iconic movie for me. It was a real turning point. I was about 12 years old, obviously very impressionable by what I see on the screen and TV. But just sounds of the different cars, the colors, the different graphics, the way each car moved individually, even though a lot of it was CGI, it was still very, very impressive to me. Still is. I still look back on it. Even now I do CGI now. I look back on it and I was like, oh my God, this stuff is amazing.
By the time I graduated high school, I started Charlotte Cruisins, which was without a doubt just a concept idea. So it was originally somebody else's idea that they passed to me because I was probably one of the more involved ones and more excited about it and found a need for it. And with just me knowing people and branching out and the value of social media these days, I was able to market a page on Facebook to create a profile for the car meets in Charlotte. And simply after 150 people had joined it, I formed an event, formed a venue, and learned as I went. And as it grew over about a 2.5 year period, my last event yielded about 1,200 cars and roughly 3,000 to 5,000 people, somewhere in that range. But it was an absolutely insane 2.5 years just having fun.
I actually had a show last year in November called Ascension, where Speed Meets Style. And it was a car show. We had some amazing cars out there, but it was also a fashion show. It was the first show like it in this region. It was the first time anybody had ever brought cars and fashion together in the way that it was done there. You know, people, they use cars as decor for a fashion show, but nobody has really incorporated the cars as part of the actual show.
Paul Walker dying was a serious blow to me. I mean, I don't cry very often. I mean, the last time I cried, I think, was when my sister died. But Paul Walker's death was a big deal for me. I mean, I've mourned celebrities and musicians from my favorite bands and movies and stuff before, but I really connected with Brian O'Connor through those movies. But I watched 5 or 6 Fast and the Furious movies just back to back through tears. I was just gone. My brother was seriously worried about me because he didn't know what I was going to do next. Because I wouldn't drive. I didn't want to. I was completely obsessed with finding out how it happened. If he had gotten into an accident or if it was a malfunction or... And, yeah.
To know Paul Walker was a car enthusiast, you know, he wasn't just an actor. Paul Walker was a driver. He loved, from what I heard, he loved that sense of speed. You know, he worked on his cars. He was a grease monkey. He's a gearhead. And for him to be such an influence on me to go into that area, just to know that he's gone, kind of feels like a piece of me is gone at the same time.
When Paul Walker died, I mean, it was like any person, like, oh man, a family member is gone. It's hard to fathom that somebody who has made an impact through film in your life is just suddenly gone. It's I mean, it was tough. Realizing, though, the fact that, yes, he is a celebrity, yes, the media was covering it and pushing it, is one of the things you also have to realize, too. But taken away from who Paul Walker was, I think that I found more value in being able to see what Paul Walker has continued versus the personal impact they had on me through things like Reach Out Worldwide, the car shows, his love for cars, and as well as his film. They all had kind of a balance of love for cars as well as love for people. Paul was just a genuine guy on camera as well as on the streets. I mean, he was going to car shows too, from what numerous sources would say and things like that. And he was just an all-around genuine kind of person. And just to know that his legacy is still standing is just something special. But when it came down to the news of Paul Walker going, it wasn't easy to take for the first day or so. I didn't really want to watch the Fast and Furious films anymore because I didn't want to relive the fact that he was gone.
When I heard the news of Paul Walker dying, it was a very hard pill to swallow. I can actually compare it to when NASCAR lost Dale Earnhardt. It was very hard. I am an emotional guy. I'm a very sensitive guy. And I cried during both. And when you see like videos of Tyrese at the site crying, it really sets something off to you. It shows that even celebrities are human. We're all human. And this movie, Furious 7, was definitely something I want to see, and I knew it was going to be emotional at times, and it was. But the last part of it, when they're all together, was the hardest part. Seeing it twice, it's still hard. It's still hard to talk about, and even the loss of Dale Earnhardt, it's still hard to talk about till this day. I remember when I was told, talking about it now, thinking about the reaction I had when Paul Walker died. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and they still do. You know, it's hard. You know, we all attach to certain people for different reasons, and it's never easy. A death, whether it's someone we grew up with. I grew up with Robin Williams when he first started being Mork on Happy Days. I cried then too. You know, everyone cries for certain reasons, and you know, like I said, we're all human and we're all family. One way or another, it boils down to one great melting pot.
For 2 weeks, I had, after hearing about him being gone, I had flashbacks. I used to hang out with the imports in Georgia. Me and my sister, we used to model for the imports. And one day he showed up. Mr. Paul Walker in the flesh, man. I remember getting lost, and I saw a man at the end of the hallway, and I didn't know who he was. I just knew that I needed to get where I was going. And so I said, "Hey sir, do you know where the food is?" And he says, "It's right down the hallway." I said, "Thank you, sir." I kept going, and he says, "Hang on a second." I said, "Okay." He says, "Come here." So I turned around, and I looked at him. My eyes about popped out of my head. And man, he says, "You really had no idea who I was." And I said, "No, sir." I said, "But that's what sets us apart from each other, you know." I said, I don't see celebrities as a god. I see them as family. I see them as human beings." And later on that night, he sought me out, and he took me for a ride. After asking his bodyguard if it was okay, he took me for a ride. And it just so happened to be the same car that he was driving in Too Fast, Too Furious. And it was just, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. His driving was so smooth. So seeing all that after being told that he's gone, it was like he was right there and he never left. So seeing the movie after him being gone, it was hard. It was really hard knowing that he's not here anymore. But I tell you what, every time I get in this car, it might not be the fastest car, but every time I get in my car, I think, Jesus Christ, please let him be watching me. Let him make me drive like he did. Yep.
Now you can only keep up with me.
This is for family, for Paul, and I'm proud to say I'm a buster.
And I'm proud to say I'm a buster.
And I'm really proud to say I'm a buster.
I'm proud to be a buster.
And I'm proud to be a buster.